about a meeting that happened at the White House on Saturday night where the president was in the West Wing. He was there with his White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, Eric Hirschman, who is another White House attorney who you might remember that was someone who was on the Senate floor last year defending the president in his impeachment trial. And we're told that Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump were there. And basically they had this stark message for the president warning him what could happen if he did pardon himself or his kids. But Anderson, here's the new twist that we are learning, that there are Republican lawmakers who have also sought pardons from the president because they are worried about potential legal exposure that they could be facing for the roles that they played in that January 6th rally that happened on the National Mall right here behind me before, of course, that pro-Trump mob went up to Capitol Hill and breached the halls of those federal buildings. And so basically in this meeting, we are told that the attorneys went to the president and they said that if he pardoned himself, the kids, or any of these Republican lawmakers who had been seeking clemency, that he could open himself up to being in a more vulnerable position than if he didn't, given these would be these forward-looking pardons, since none of these people have been charged with any crimes as of now. And they basically told the president that maybe some of these would be legally sound, but the optics of it would be so bad for the president. And so what's notable, Anderson, that we're learning from sources is that this broke through with Trump. You know, he doesn't have the best relationship with Pat Cipollone, the White House counsel. He actually has been dismissive of his advice since the election. But this message resonated with the president. And I think that really does speak to the mindset that he is in these final few days in office, because he is basically concerned, really. He's actually worried about angering Senate Republicans and whether or not they'd convict him in that trial. And it also speaks to the fear and the fallout from that January 6th rally, that there is real concern about legal exposure, because it's among these Republican lawmakers, also the president's children. Donald Trump Jr. and his girlfriend, Kimberly Guilfoyle, both spoke at that rally and were involved in it, but also the people who organized it, who fundraised for it. Women for America First is one of the groups. Turning Point USA is another one. There is a serious concern among the president's inner circle that there could be real legal exposure from that January 6th rally, and that played a part in the conversations that the president had about this.
It's incredible to me that Republican legislators going to the president or people around him, fishing around for a pardon. I mean, that's really extraordinary. Why do you think this warning from the attorneys resonated with Trump?
It is so unusual, because that is something that typically the president would dismiss. If it's advice he doesn't like, even if it's from attorneys, he often will push back on it. But we are told that he was really unsettled by this conversation, that it spooked him. And so unless he was going to list specific crimes for people in these pardons, that they weren't going to be issued. And so that's why they're not expected to be included here. And I think the president is approaching these final few hours now in the White House, from this very distant, muted manner where he is not appearing in public. He is not his normal rambunctious self. And if you speak with people who have talked to the president, they'll agree with this assessment and say that this is kind of the way he's looking at it. And he is actually worried about legal repercussions once he leaves office, but he's also worried about his legacy. That is actually a big concern when it comes to whether or not the Senate would vote to convict him. That's another reason two other people who likely won't be on this list, Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, that's because Senate Republicans had made clear to the White House they did not want either of them to be included on this list of clemency. And the president is actually concerned that his favor with Senate Republicans has turned, and he is concerned about angering them further. And that has played a big role in who is going to be on this list when the White House releases it shortly.